Belgium also is a very small country, so we cannot go very far. But yes, so we are waiting for new rules, maybe for March. But if we are looking to other countries like Netherlands or Germany, it's quite bad. Also, the sanitary situation. So it's now we are in a new period of vaccination, but we don't really know when it will be finished. We think that for September, they say that everybody will be vaccinated in September. So, yeah. I don't know how is the situation in Turkey on this sanitary crisis. Maybe the same.
Yeah, almost the same. With the restaurants and entertainment venues, it is very bad. They don't have any possibility to sell anything because they are all closed, only servicing activities to houses or to business venues, but it is not enough to survive. So they really have problems, but it is not only those cultural and entertainment places, also the economy is not very good now. So we have economical problems. The prices are going up, and because of the tourism income has declined almost to the end, there is a high deficit in the overall earnings of the Turkish economy. So it causes a lot.
Yes, and now we are also quite anxious on the consequences of this crisis, also on the youth. More and more, we have more and more suicide of young people, and also on the mental health of a lot of people. So it's the second consequences of this crisis. Yes, but we try to keep a positive attitude, but it's not really not easy.
Do you have this third type of the virus in Belgium?
The what?
The third one. They say that there's a third mutated one. Do you have that one in Belgium?
The third one, where you speak about the third wave, or do you?
No. They say that the virus has mutated for
yes, of course. Yes, we have what they call the variant from England, but now also variant from South Africa. And so we have it, yeah. Not so much, but we have it. Yeah.
It will cause a more severe problem for the future.
You know that I have another meeting. I have to leave you at 5:30.
Let's start.
But no problem, because I will not speak during half an hour. I have a speech about 15, 20 minutes, not more.
Okay.
No problem. You can wait. It's around 5:30 that I leave you, but okay.
Okay, let's start then. In a second. With your permission, we are recording the meeting, okay?
We are transparent.
Merhaba arkadaşlar. Bu arada Facebook'tan izleyen arkadaşlara şunu hatırlatabilirim. İsterlerse kanalımıza gelebilirler. Dinleme açısından bir sınır yok sayı açısından. Dolayısıyla katılıp izleyebilirler ve katıldıkları takdirde konuşmaların Türkçe çevirilerini de buradan rahatlıkla izleyebilirler. Evelyne Brock. Do you pronounce it correctly?
No.
No.
That's
so, Evelyn only. Evelyn Huytebroeck. Okay.
That's not a problem.
Avrupa Yeşiller Partisi'nin eş sözcüsü olan arkadaşım. Türkiye ile çok uzun süredir ilişkileri olan bir kişi kendisi. Kendisine moderatör olarak bir hoş geldin demek istiyorum. Tabii siz katılımcılara da hoş geldin diyoruz. Hemen toplantıya girmeden önce eş sözcümüz Eylem Tuncelli'ye bir açılış konuşması için söz vereyim izninizle.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Biliyorsunuz Kongre-Konferans sürecine gidiyoruz ve bir dizi tartışma yürütüyoruz bu kapsamda. Tematik toplantılarımız var. Avrupa Yeşiller Partisi'nin de bir üyesiyiz bildiğiniz üzere. Özellikle pandemi krizinden sonra Evelyne'le yeşil politikaları konuşmak istedik. Sizlerle de paylaşmak istedik politikaları. Kriz hem pandemi krizi hem göçmen krizi, çoklu bir krizi yaşıyor dünya. Belki Evelyne kapsamlı politikaları üzerinden Avrupa'da nasıl ilerlendiğine dair, parlamentoda neler yapılacağına ve önerilerine dair belki bazı ülkelerdeki yeşil politikalara dair bize bilgiler verir. Beraber tartışırız. 20 dakikalık bir sunum yapacağını söyledi az önce. Soru ve cevaplarla biz de kendi kongre konferans sürecimizde yolumuzu çizen bir programı oluşturmak üzere bu toplantıları yapıyoruz. Bu yüzden de katılımınızı önemsiyoruz. Ben çok uzatmak istemiyorum. Evelyne bir 20-25 dakika sunumunu yapsın. Ardından yeşil politikaları birlikte değerlendirelim. Hepinize tekrar hoş geldiniz diyorum.
Teşekkürler Eylem. Evelyne'e söz vermeden önce küçük bir hatırlatma yapayım arkadaşlar için. Son toplantılarında Avrupa Yeşiller Partisi pandemi sonrası Avrupa'da neler yapılması gerektiği üzerine 9-10 başlık üzerinden kararlar aldı. Bu başlıkları esas olarak Evelyne burada değerlendirecek. Bu Covid-19 sürecinin bir fırsat olarak değerlendirilmesi ve Avrupa'nın yeşil bir şekilde yeniden kurgulanması için kullanılmasını içeren kararlar dizisiydi. Sanıyorum kendisinin aktaracakları bunlar üzerine. The floor is yours, Evelyne.
Thank you very much. Let me know if you hear me well. Is it okay with the translation?
Çeviriyi duyuyoruz. Evelyne'in sesi biraz zayıf geliyor. Tamam.
Okay. Okay. Tamam. Then I can begin. So thank you very much, you to my Turkish friends, to invite me for this seminar, even if I prefer to be with you in Istanbul than here on this virtual channel. I think that everybody has enough a little bit of this kind of presentation, but we have no choice for the moment. So it's true that 2020 means the worst crisis we have ever experienced internationally since the Second War. And that 2020, it's really the world that we don't want to live in. We are with limited freedoms, overworked health services, youth without projects, seniors also very isolated, but also millions of people who lose their jobs, and also poverty is growing in all the countries, even also in Brussels, and also the relationship between the people who are changing. So it's not really the world that we Greens we want, neither for ourselves and for our children. So there is an urgent need to move towards a more ecological, solidarity and democratic society. And really, today we have no time to lose. And for the Greens, but not only the Greens, also for the economic sectors, for the citizens, for the NGOs, we have to prepare what we can call the day after. We realize that more and more political, economic, associative actors are looking at the future differently and want to build a new model of society on more sustainable basis. We believe also that it's through action at a European, but also a global scale that we will recover from this crisis. Even, and I'm also a local councillor in a municipality here in Brussels with a Green mayor, we see that it's mainly the local politicians who are, for the moment, on the front line, with citizens who are anxious, with the police who sometimes exceed their rights, with young people from popular neighborhoods quite upset with this situation, with big families in small apartments. And what we can observe for the moment is that if more than 10 years environmentalists, Greens, have been talking about the Green Deal, today we are no longer alone. So we see that in 2021, Europe is finally putting a European Green Deal on the table to get out of the environmental, economic and social crisis. Finally, Europe put on the table a major public investment plan oriented towards ecological and solidarity transition. But we Greens in the European Parliament, but not only there, also where we are in the government in Europe, in 6 governments, we will be very attentive to the implementation of these projects. We don't want dispersion of funds, no waste or prestige expenses, and no greenwashing. We really want concrete actions for the citizens, like insulating houses, improving soft mobility, better equipping schools, and so. We don't forget that 2021 is also the year of important events in the world. The Climate COP in Glasgow in December, which we are actively preparing with a major climate campaign with the collaboration of all the Greens, also the Young Greens, the Foundation, Jeff, and also the Global Greens. It will be also quite at the same moment, but a little bit early in September, the World Summit for the Biodiversity, which will have to set a clear and ambitious course, fight against deforestation, protection of living spaces, transition to agroecology, reduction of ocean pollution. And for us, ecological transition and solidarity and democratic transition must move forward together. So where we Greens, we want to put the focus on the health response, of course. We center our response around the protection of what we call the commons. You know, it's the cultural and natural resources accessible to all members of the society. For us, the healthcare and the public services are commons, and we have to protect them, to respect them, to recognize their importance, to remunerate them also sufficiently. We cannot continue to cut in public spending as hospitals, as transport public services, waste management, education. We cannot continue with the austerity dogma. It's inadequate and not responding to such a crisis. We have also to relocalize parts of some industry, like the pharmaceutical and medical sectors, as well that we need a global cooperation with international institutions to give common responses and coordinating research for treatments and vaccines that are accessible to everybody. So we ask also for more investments in the research programs. And then the green and just recovery. A lot of people speak about economy, but we want what we call a resilient economy. We want a climate neutral circular economy, financing the energy transition as well as sustainable productions. These sectors create green and quality jobs. And we don't have to forget also the cultural care economy, but also the sector of tourism. Tourist sector is for the moment losing a lot of jobs, and certainly in the south of Europe and Turkey as well, of course. But it's the moment also to evolve to a more sustainable and quality tourism model. Second, the green resilience. There is a clear link between degradation of the biodiversity, transmission of deadly viruses from animals to humans, air pollution, the fight against climate change stay the priority. And we want an ambitious climate law. The objective is reducing emissions by at least 65% by 2030, reaching climate neutrality by 2040 at the latest, an energy transition to 100 renewables and phasing out from fossil fuels as soon as possible. And so, no direct or indirect support to the nuclear and fossil industries. A plan for going out of nuclear power. And also an ambitious biodiversity strategy, a zero pollution action plan for air, water, and soil. And it's also time to invest more in environmentally friendly transport, trains, public transport, cycling, pedestrian infrastructure. Three, a social Europe. No one can be left behind. We want a minimum income directive, but also basic income schemes, working time reduction schemes to redistribute work among more people, a regularization of workers who are irregular migrants and work especially in care and agricultural sectors, but also the inclusion of other migrants and refugees in our healthcare system. And also a better cooperation with countries around EU on this question, because EU solidarity must not stop at EU borders. The EU must strive to be a leader in international solidarity and certainly during a sanitary crisis. For the women on front lines, there is a gender dimension in this crisis. Women are undervalued and underpaid and are a majority in the care services. And we ask also funds for the victims of gender-based violence who increased during the crisis. That's the ratification of the Istanbul Convention. It's also a difficult period for young people, students, hard to find a job and to travel. The food sovereignty. This crisis shows our dependence on world markets. The Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP, must change course to support ecological, regional, diversified, small and medium farms. It can create thousands of jobs. Our agriculture must be less dependent on pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. Key production must be relocalized within the limits of EU ecosystem, and we have to be sure that European funds are going to organic farmers. Education and culture, access for all, and the European Cultural Fund must be a priority. The sector is facing one of the harshest socio-economic consequences. With the European Green Party, we will begin what we call a policy lab for also 4 or 5 meetings this year with experts, artists on this question of culture. And certainly with our Green Minister of Culture, we have 5 in Europe, because for us it's a real opportunity. Digitalization and new technology. There is no guarantee access to the internet for a part of the population, for elderly persons, for part of the students also. So digital divide exists really. So digitalization of essential service must be a priority. It creates also jobs, but also it can develop creative solutions to the crisis. Democracy. The national government put emergency measures during the crisis. These must be time limited, strictly related to the health crisis and subject to regular democracy scrutiny. We condemned all attempts to the democracy. For example, here in Hungary or in Poland, for example. I can take, of course, the question of Turkey. Any restriction on fundamental rights must be as limited as possible in its duration and in any case effective, necessary and proportionate. And also governments cannot use the pandemic crisis as a pretext to weaken social and labor rights. The global change and the local partnership. Corona crisis is a global one. EU has a clear responsibility and should lead in supporting countries in difficulty through humanitarian aid and medical support. But it's urgent to give a clear signal regarding the debt cancellation for most poor countries of the South. EU must also take the lead to build a more resilient and sustainable trade system and to strengthen multilateralism and global governance. We will discuss the Mercosur. It will be on the table. To overcome the global emergency, Europe must work with national, regional, local partners in a relation of trust and collaboration. As well, it's necessary to involve citizens through a truly participatory process. And then a word on the local level. We Greens, we have many, and I shall conclude here, we have many local councillors, but also we have more and more mayors and vice mayors in cities and in some big cities. Cities who are for the moment the center of the pandemic. we feel that it's time to act also on how we see the social life in a city, how we reorganize the public spaces with more places for pedestrians, for cyclists, quiet streets, for example. How we involve better the young generation in our initiatives. How we consider elderly people as real actors in an intergenerational relationship. How we introduce more green in the city. How we protect the parks and the natural spaces. How we support the small shops and local circular economy. How we promote our craftsmen and women. Finally, we can only overcome this crisis if we work together and if we build alliance with civil society, with maybe also other progressist party, with scientific, with cultural, academic community, business world. Today, if we make the right choices, this could be a turning point. It could be the beginning of a more equitable economic system, a more sustainable world, a more solidarity society through all the borders. And we want it also with you, Turkish Green, and we know how the actual period is also difficult for you, with some Greens also in jail, with the populism of the regime. So you know that we are always ready to express our solidarity and that you can count on our support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evelyne. With your permission, I want to explain some technical problems to the audiences. Bazı arkadaşlar ben gözükmüyorum diye sormuşlar. Teknik olarak katılımcı arkadaşları burada ekranda göremiyoruz. Sadece panelist statüsünde tanımlanmış, bir kısmı teknik işlerle ilgilenen, bir kısmı da konuşmacı ve çevirmen olan arkadaşlarımızı görebiliyorsunuz. Onun için hani toplantıya katılan başkaları gözükmüyor. Bunun açıklamasını yapayım. Arkadaşların çoğu bağlandı sanırım ama altta İngilizce yazan yere, interpretation yazan yerde İngilizceyi seçerseniz Türkçe çevirileri rahatlıkla dinlemiş olursunuz. Şimdi arkadaşlardan yazılı sorular rica edeceğim. Lütfen sorularını şeye atsınlar, chat bölümüne atsınlar. Oradan biz toparlayıp çeviri yaparak, aynı soruları birleştirerek çeviri yaparak ileteceğiz Evelyne'deki sorular tekrar olmasın. Değerli toplu bir şekilde toplantıyı götürebilirim. Thank you very much again, Evelyne. So as the moderator, I think I can give some privilege to myself and ask some questions to you in the first hand. I know that European Greens Party is working for this period after the pandemic conditions, and you are working very hard. But I really wonder personally and politically if EU will accept EU legislation, will accept your proposals, and even if they accept, how will the national governments behave? What are your expectations on these?
Okay, I can. You hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah? Okay, so that's a very difficult and general question, of course. But you see that for the moment, the Greens are quite more strong than ever in Europe, for the moment. Our group, it's for the moment around 75 MEP, and we have seen that all the remarks that we have done on the plan from Europe to fight against this crisis, they were listening to it. and they include some of our propositions, even if we are in what we call the minority or the opposition. And maybe that's the first time that the Commission and Ursula von der Leyen is really listening to the Greens. It's the first time that we see that. Not only because we are a strong group, but also that they, as I said before, that they begin to understand that the consumption and the production, we cannot continue as before. And so that the Green New Deal is really an example that they hear from us. Something that we said, and I remember in the 80s, because I was also already green in the 80s, we wanted this Green Deal. And now that they put money for the Green Deal, I think it's also an answer to the Greens. But what we have to do is absolutely to be very prudent also. As I said, we don't want only greenwashing. We want real, concrete actions. And so it's why we are also very prudent in the national, regional, and local level. And it's why we try to work from the European to the local level. And so you know that with EGP, we create now a new network with the minister, Green Minister, in the national party. In Ireland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Sweden, Finland, and Austria. And so 6 ministers of climate, 5 ministers of culture, we have minister of economy. And so we think that if there is a good collaboration with our member in the European Parliament, with the national minister, but also with the local level, then something maybe can move. We hope that. But that's a collaboration on all the levels.
Thank you. Çiğdem, çeviri yapıyor musun? Çiğdem?
Şu anda yapmıyor.
Soru cevapları çevirmiyor muyuz? Duyulmuyor.
Yok, duyulmadı.
Gelmiyor Çiğdem.
Şu anda duyuyoruz
duyuluyor.
seni. Lütfen. Parlamentosu. Şimdi Türkan, sen çeviridesin sanıyorum. Şöyle yapalım. Okay, Evelyn, there was a problem with the translation, so we stopped for a bit, retranslated your speech. So now I will ask the question in Turkish, and Türkan will translate to you. Birinci sorumuz ağırlıkla, yani toparlayabildiğim kadarıyla gelen soruların bir kümesi Türkiye'de ve Akdeniz bölgesinde ve Avrupa'da yapılan fosil yakıtlara dönük çalışmalar. Bunlardan bir tanesi Akdeniz'deki sondaj faaliyetleri, diğeri jeotermal enerji kullanımına dönük çalışmalar, benzer şekilde rüzgar enerjisinin gibi çalışmalar, biyokütleden üretme gibi çalışmalar. Bunlar Türkiye'de ciddi tepkilerle karşılaşıyor. Avrupa Yeşiller Partisi olarak bu konuda sizin yaklaşımınız nasıl? Duyuyorum.
Yes, thank you. There was this question in the chat also. I read it. And Ahmet Sinan, they know, of course, that it's a big problem for us, European Green, because all this question of the East Med pipelines, of the question of fossil fuel, of gas exploitation in the sea, it's not only a Turkish question, it's a question for all this Mediterranean sector. And so we are, of course, in favor to have a resolution in EGP, or maybe also a discussion on this, on an action. We need to collaborate also with the other Greens in the Mediterranean sector on this question, because I have no doubt that we are all on the same point on this question. There is we are very clear on this, and that's typically a policy on what we can collaborate and work together. You know, for a press release, for a green resolution, for an interpellation also, or an intervention in the European Parliament, for something, and you participated the European, the Mediterranean network. It's also an important point in this network. We will have a council with EGP in May. Unfortunately, again, it will be it will be virtual from Brussels. But this question of energy can be also one of the points that we can discuss during this council. We can also ask to some of our Minister of Energy. For example, in Belgium, we have the Minister of Energy, Tine van der Straten, from the Groen Party. And maybe that we can do something together on this specific question of energy that is a priority, of course, for the Greens.
İkinci sorumuz aşılama ile ilgili. Bu pandemi karşısında aşı gerçekten bir problem ve ülkemizde ve dünyada aşının aslında bütün halka ücretsiz olarak ulaştırılması ve şirketlerin tek elinden, patentinden alınarak bütün ülkelerde üretilebilmesini talep eden sesler yükseliyor. Yeşiller bu konuyla ilgili bir kampanya, bir çalışma yapmayı düşünüyor mu?
Yes, and I think it's really the same question for the moment in all the countries. There is no difference between Turkey or Europe and so. What we ask is, of course, a free vaccination. We have here the Green Minister of Health here in Brussels is from the Greens, and he's fighting absolutely for that, for a free vaccination. The problem for the moment, it's also the solidarity and the solidarity in Europe, because we know that some, of course, that some country, even in the European Union, are in competition for some vaccination, and that's very bad. It's why we were asking in the European Parliament to Ursula von der Leyen, to the Commission, to have a unique, unique language on this vaccination. Because for the moment, there are sometimes two levels between the country, and there is a concurrency. And so we see that sometimes the solidarity has some limits, even in Europe, and that's very bad also. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical industry. It's why one of our demands is also to try to keep more pharmaceutical, more and more industry, also more locally or in Europe. For the moment, there is also a concurrence between the different industry. And so we see that the people are really lost in this question of vaccination. And so that's really a demand that we have, an accessibility and a free vaccination, even if we are aware that 100% of the people cannot be vaccinated in the 3 months, but we need also a clear steps in the vaccination from now to September. And it's very difficult also because we see some part of the population going against the other. For the moment, we say vaccination first for the health sector. But then you have also the teacher who say, but we also want to be in the first period and to have vaccination. So it's very difficult also for the politicians to make some choice and to say it's first these persons. Is it the people more than 65, or in some other countries they say, no, we want better between 30 and 50 years, the people who must be vaccinated. So it's a very difficult discussion. And we see also that the decisions are different country by country.
Bir diğer soru gene fosil yakıtların kullanımına ilişkin olarak ve madenciliğe ilişkin olarak gelmiş. Benzer bir içeriği var. Avrupa Birliği kredi kuruluşları işte siyanürliç yöntemiyle altın arayan şirketleri ya da yerelinde büyük tepkiler çeken jeotermal enerji şirketlerini fonluyorlar. Avrupa Birliği'nin bunları ortadan kaldırmak gibi bir niyeti var mı? Yeşillerin böyle bir yaklaşımı olduğunu biliyorum ama Avrupa Birliği'nde bu konudaki gelişmeler ne durumda, bir şey yapılması mümkün değil mi diye sorular var.
I think that our position on this question is very, very, very clear. It's that we are completely against. And maybe some of you remember that 2 or 3 years ago, we made a big, big campaign during 1 year on against extraction of fossil fuel. It was a very big campaign. And also, we wanted that some locality, municipality can also go against that. And so, as I said, on all the levels. So we are very clear on that. But so now to say that the European Parliament or the Commission or the company are following the Greens, not already. But we continue absolutely this campaign, and it will be probably, I was speaking about our climate campaign during 1 year. We have someone in the European Party, Rihanna, who is working only on this climate campaign. And this question of energy, of extraction will be one of the part of this climate campaign. So be convinced that it's one of our first also priority, because if the Greens don't make that a priority, nobody will do it, of course. So we have to continue the battle also with you.
Almost, we have only 10 minutes, so you are in.
Yes, if you have one, not more than 1 or 2, because I shall.
Okay. Then let me ask a general political question to you, Evelyne. When we look to Europe and EU, because of the refugee problem and the pandemic, a new way of isolation policies has been increasing among the states. So, and we have Brexit on the other side. So how do you see the future of EU and the Green Party, EGP, is not a nationalist party or activity, it is international. So this attitude from national governments which want to isolate themselves, how will they affect your policies?
Yes, it's a very generic question, and you know, it's why we speak about also solidarity, and not only in the borders of the EU, but outside the borders of the EU. And probably that this health crisis is not very enthusiastic for our policy of opening and inclusion also. Because we see also that when we speak solidarity, even in Europe, this solidarity doesn't exist. But we continue because we think that without this solidarity, intra-European and extra-European, we will not go forward. And so one big discussion is on the table of the EU, and be attentive to that. It's the Migration Pact. This Migration Pact is already on the table of the European Parliament. And it will be a very important discussion also. Because for the moment, yes, in the place of opening the view, of opening the borders, of opening the solidarity, we see that it's a contrario, the opposite. With the Brexit, with the different measures in Europe, with a big populism in some of our countries, also with also some right-wing parties who are quite strong. And so we need more than ever green policy. And so on this migration pact, we will speak with our minister, different minister, to have really a common dialogue and a common position on this question, because it will be with the COP, with the climate, this migration pact will be one of the most important discussions in the European Parliament. And it's not easy for the Greens. I see it also as local councillor in the population. It's not easy when you are in an economic crisis, when you see that restaurant, cafe, that people are losing jobs, speaking about opening more the borders or having a very solidary attitude on this question of refugee is quite very difficult and not popular, but we have to continue in this sense.
Teşekkürler. Bu soru son sorumuz olsun. Let's be the final question. It is related with agricultural policies. Your relations with Via Campesina.
With who?
Via Campesina. The çiftçilerin örgütüne. It is the Farmers Association, and there is an European branch over there which is working for food sovereignty.
Yes.
And the second question related to agriculture is breeding of animals, which are responsible of 51% of the gases emissions. So what do you think about vegan policies?
Maybe I'm not the best interlocutor for this question because the specialist is my co-chair, Thomas Waits. So Thomas can speak one hour about this question of agriculture, of bioagriculture, of food sovereignty. And I don't want to jump in the discussion if vegan is better than vegetarian, is better than flexitarian, and so it's a very difficult discussion. What we are, of course, and is important is, of course, the welfare of animals. And so that's our discussion. Maybe in between the Greens, we have some parties more in favor for vegan than others. That's their freedom. And I know that in some countries, like I think in the Scandinavia, we have a lot of discussion also with NGOs also on welfare animals. We have also an MEP from Portugal, PAN, who is from this party, PAN, who is the Animal Welfare Party. So they are all natural partners, of course. And this is also quite an important question because it's immediately linked with the question of environment and with the question of health. We have seen it during the crisis, and it will be one of the question also in the climate campaign, because it's immediately linked with this question of climate. But maybe I'm not the best expert on this question. The next time Thomas West must come also to your webinar.
So, because our colleague Evelyne is going to attend another meeting, we have to stop the meeting.
Thank you very
much, Evelyne.
Thank you to you. And this meeting that I have now in 5 minutes is very important because it's also with Thomas, with Mark, and also with Philippe Lamberts in the European Parliament. And it's about how we coordinate the work between the European Party, between the group, and with our Greens in government to have really global and mutual collaboration. So it's quite an important one, but thank you for the invitation. And I hope in Istanbul in some months. Thank you very much.
It was a very nice meeting, a very fruitful and efficient meeting for us. I hope it was the same for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. Bye, Helen. Yeah,
see you.
You too.
Evet. Katılan arkadaşlara teşekkür ediyoruz. Eylem kapatırken bir şeyler söylemek istersen.
Evet, Evelyne'i görmek iyi geldi. Ben önce yurt dışı yasağım vardı. Sadece İstanbul'da görüşüyorduk. Sonra pandemi oldu. Uzun bir süredir görüşemedik. Aslında Evelyne birkaç konunun altını çizdi. Bizim 4 adalet diye vurgu yaptığımız her şeyi sıraladı. O sosyal adalet dedi. Biz iktisadi adalet diye söylüyoruz bunu. Tanınma adaleti, kimlik adaletli mülteci, Avrupa'daki mülteciler üzerinden değinmiş oldu. Söz katılım adaletli kadın eşit temsiliyet üzerinden değindi. Ve iklim ve ekoloji adaleti. Şunlara vurgu yaptı. O yüzden en azından bir önceki kongre kararlarımız itibariyle yolumuzun doğru olduğunu ya da eşdeğer olduğunu görmüş olduk. Dayanışma dedi, birlikte mücadele dedi ve yeşile boyamayacağız. Gerçek çözümler üzerinden yürüyeceğiz dedi. Biz de Avrupa'da birçok politik yapıyla birlikte hareket etmeye çalışıyoruz. Bu zor sürece hem pandemi hem yoksulluğun artması hem sosyal adalet hiç kimseyi dışarıda bırakmadan sağlayacağımız sosyal adaleti bu şekliyle kurguluyoruz dedi. Ben de çok uzatmayayım. Yeni işten çıkılıyor. Henüz iş yerini terk etmemiş arkadaşlarımız da var. Herkese katıldığı için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bir sonraki toplantıyı da diğer sözcüğüyle yapacağımızı umut ediyorum. Bu arada aramızda Sinan yok. Çünkü Ankara'da HDP'nin Herkes İçin Adalet etkinliğinin ilk günüydü bugün. Onun duyurusu vardı. Ankara'daydı. Şu an yolda. Şarjı da bitmiş. WhatsApp'tan en son onu yazdı. Aramıza katılamadı. Onun da mazeretini bildirmiş olayım sizlere. Görüşmek üzere.
Hoşça kalın arkadaşlar. Katıldığınız için teşekkürler.